Next In.
Welcome to Next In. We are joined by Larry McDonough. Did I say it right?
You did.
I did. All right, Larry McDonough, and you're in San Jose, which a name like Larry McDonough, I would have felt like a Chicago name, like a good. It feels like
actually I'm from Philly, so you're not far off.
Okay.
I grew up in Philly. Started my early life there. Became a huge Flyers fan. And now actually in the game room, I don't know if you can see from here. I had some neon made. Can you see the Eagles?
Oh, you're an Eagles fan. So you just stole AJ Brown from the Titans, where we're at in Nashville. So, but it was it was good for you guys.
Hey,
you decided to pay money. So it's Shane Chown and myself, Taylor Duncan. We're the hosts, joined by Larry. Really appreciate it. Larry is the director of product for Procore Technologies. Mm-hmm. So that's at least the general title. But Larry, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, obviously we know you're from Philly. We know your title, but how'd you get there? Because I think that's what most people are probably interested and curious about. And you have a pretty long history.
I've been in product management specifically since 1995. So it's been quite a while. But the road to where I am is littered with all kinds of crazy stuff. I actually started out as an art major in college, and got into UC Riverside on a sports waiver because my family moved around so much. I wasn't so good in school. For me, I think I was in 9 different schools by the time I graduated high school.
Wow.
And I ended up in Riverside, California. My family moved back and forth, West Coast, East Coast, a couple times, and ended up in Riverside. Found myself on a basketball team with Reggie Miller, which I don't normally talk about, but I talk about my high school. That's always the first thing that comes to mind. So I played basketball with him. I was a senior on the team starting, and he was like a freshman just coming up. And
so you taught him everything he knows?
I taught him everything he knows. Absolutely. No, I'm not. He was a genius back then even. And then, I wasn't so hot in school. So I I got a sports waiver at UC Riverside. They said, hey, I applied there, but I didn't get in. And then my old coach, who was volleyball at high school, was volleyball now at Riverside. And he said, hey, I can get you in. Just come on over. I was scared to death. I'm like an art student, / athlete. And so I go in, and my first 2 quarters, I'm on the dean's list because I'm scared shitless. I don't know if I can say that.
You can say whatever you want.
All right.
Hey, the last guy talked about growing weeds. So you know what?
Right.
That was his hobby. You got pool tables and cool stuff. He's
cool. Nice. Thank
hydroponics.
Yeah. So anyway, I did really well, and I was always mathematically inclined, and the art program didn't let me do the kind of cool things I wanted to do. So I switched over to computer science on a whim. My girlfriend's dad at the time said, have you tried taking, a computer class? Computers are really starting to take off. This is 1983, so it's quite a ways time ago. And I thought, no, I hadn't. My first computer class actually in Riverside was on cards. And I just fell in love with it. There's so much art and creativity and programming. So it just really, and plus I had a little bit of math, affinity. So I was pretty good in math and art. So I just ate it up and got out of college with a BS in computer science, surprised the hell out of my parents. And actually, fast forward to today, I'm on the board of advisors at UC Riverside in their Bourne's College of Engineering school. So it's kind of just crazy how life happens like that. But and I had just awesome opportunities out of school. I started off in the defense industry, writing code for satellites. A company called Aerojet.
Little thing called NASA or something like that.
Yeah, and then I went to Rand, and while I was at Rand, I moonlighted at NASA JPL and wrote code for them. And the stuff I built at Rand was so cool. It was used in Desert Storm by Schwarzkopf, and they flew me into the Pentagon to teach the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I was just a young kid, just doing this just incredible stuff, and I was just. I was moonlighting, working full time. I was running today we got meetup.com, but back in the day you had everything on, news groups, right? The internet was here, but the web wasn't here yet. Think about that. I don't know if you guys remember when we had internet, but we didn't have the web, right? So
Larry, I'm 25 years old. Of course I don't remember this. Yes, I do remember that, unfortunately.
yeah. Anyway, so it's a fascinating time. It just oftentimes blows people's mind. They're young people like, what do you mean there's no web? Anyway, so I ran a special interest group, also in my spare time doing that, had met really cool people. And I think what I found is I enjoyed talking about what I was doing. At some point, there was a switch between developing pretty much anything, real-time interactive graphics, space stuff, defense stuff. And I was having more fun talking at conferences or talking to groups of people or just, presentations at work. And then I wasn't necessarily doing it. It's kind of like I had done so much coding in such a concentrated period of like maybe, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 years. I felt like I had built everything I could possibly build. And I thought, what do I do next? So I met this girl, now she's my wife for 30 years. But at the time I was pretty still head over heels over her. Make sure you don't cut that part out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was what am I going to do? At the time I met her. So she was starting school at UCLA. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I had to go back to school. So I looked at UCLA's master's in computer science program because I had my bachelor's only and like 7, 8 years experience. And so I looked at their program and I had done almost everything that was there in my jobs. I wrote a language, I built an animation system, I did real-time interactive programming with multiprocessor, I did networking stuff. My language was a network-based language that I developed. And I built a compiler for that. So I'm like looking at all these things and I was like, it's incremental value to go get my master's degree. A friend of mine was getting an MBA. He says, why don't you, go do business? And I'm like, I am kind of enjoying talking and marketing what I do. And maybe that's what I do. So I looked at the MBA program at UCLA because that's where my girlfriend was just been accepted in a doctoral program for physics. So she's the smart one in the family.
Yeah.
So I applied to the computer science to the MBA program there because none of those classes I'd had. I looked at their, what they study and it's like, I don't have any of this. I don't have marketing. I don't have accounting. I don't have finance. I don't have, management. None of that was, so it's all value add. So, okay. It's going to cost a lot of money, but it's good stuff. It's like nothing I've done before. So I applied and I got turned down. And I thought, by that time I had, I was speaking at conferences, I was writing papers, and I was, just nailing it on every possible, I had George or Schwarzkopf using my code. I had stuff running in space. I'm like, how can they not take me? Right. So I called the dean of the Anderson Graduate School of Management, and I got the admin and I said, I need 5 minutes with them. Just 5 minutes. And she said, well, I'm not sure. He's a very busy man. Like, well, look, here's what happened. You turn me down and I think you made a mistake. I'm going to take 5 minutes and explain why it was a mistake. Right. So she said, okay, let me hold on a second. She comes back and the guy says, he can see you tomorrow at 8. And I'll say, I'll be there. So I put together some slides that printed them out and went to his office and basically said, look, here's why UCLA is good for me. Here's why UCLA is good for, or why I'm good for you. And here's what I plan to do with my career with, using this degree. And he sits back and he goes, I got some good news and bad news, Larry. He says, the bad news is I can't change the result that we said no. He says, but the good news is I can put you on the waiting list at the top. So he said, I'm like confused because I didn't really know how the world worked back then and about schools. And he says, a lot of people get accepted at our school, but they also get accepted elsewhere. And some of them choose to go elsewhere. Right. So as soon as one of those openings up, we go to this list of people that are kind of on deck, and he says, you'll be at the top of that list. So I said, oh my God, thank you very much. Shook his hand, went home. And sure enough, like in 3 days, I got another letter, which was only like a week after the first letter, that said, congratulations, you've been accepted. And within, I don't know, 3 months of the program, I was elected by my class to lead some management liaison with the faculty. So, things were going really well. And I really enjoyed my time at UCLA.
So that's what drove you to product.
Yes.
So the moral of the story is Girlfriend 1 drove you to computer science.
Yeah,
Girlfriend
girlfriend.
2 drove you, and now wife drove. Okay, so
All right. You have learned the secret of me. Okay.
Yeah, all right. We have cracked the Larry code.
No, I think probably the real moral there is that, I've had some really good advice along the way, right? And
Well, I think part of it's like you had advice, but then you also executed on it, right? Because like it could have been very easy for somebody to say, "Hey, I didn't get accepted, thanks, but no thanks. I guess it's on to the next thing." And instead, you took
never
it in your
say
own
no.
hands. You're
Yeah.
like, "F that answer. That answer is not good enough. I'm going to
Yeah.
drive and I'm going to fight for what I want because like I've made the decision, the conscious decision that this is what I want." So you can't just take a simple no, which is, honestly, probably why you've been able to have such a successful career where you've been able to get promoted and to move up and to grow within the organizations that you've been with, because it's like, I'm not taking no for an answer. I'm fighting for this. And I'm going to make sure that I have a seat at the table, and it's not going to come easy.
Yeah. If you really believe in it, whatever it is that it is, right? If you believe in what you're trying to do or where you want to go, you're going to be told no, right? You're going to be turned down. You're going to be rejected. You're going to be said, you're not good enough or you can't make it. And, take that, learn from it, right? Listen, if don't like I first, listen, what are they rejecting to, let me see if I can figure that out. And then I think they're looking at it wrong, right? Shift the perspective, change the conversation. That's really good advice for interviews too. Like if you're in interview situations, there's been many times where it was really going south, and a couple memorable cases where I was able to turn that completely around to get the job offer. Yep. So it just is a matter of listening, figuring out what's really going on here, and then charting changing your path, right, to get to where you want to go.
So I guess what I would love to know is just like, I mean, how did you get your first product gig? Do you think that was because you're like, hey, I've got this engineering thing, plus I got my MBA? I mean, you took a short stint where you were a marketing manager. It looked like you might have went even totally sideways, and you even got out of product and you got out of, engineering, and you did something totally different. Like what made it inspired those transitions?
Well, the first gig was interesting. I was right out of school. UCLA has the system where they allow companies to come in and interview their graduating seniors, right? And even in graduate school. So as a student at UCLA, I could bid. I don't know if they do this anymore, but they would give you a certain amount of points that you could bid on interviews, right? So the companies were so many companies were going to be here. A week before, you had 100 points you could put down on whatever companies you wanted to interview for. Now, me at the time, I had just done real-time full-body interactive graphics. I had my picture in National Geographic. I had speaking at conferences in graphics. I had code at JPL. I had code in the Pentagon, code in space. And I'm like, I was really hitting all cylinders in engineering, right? And I wanted to work for graphics. Computer graphics was my thing. That's kind of the perfect mend between the art side of me and the computer side of me, right? And so of all the companies at UCLA, I put all 100 points on Silicon Graphics. Now, I don't think that company exists anymore, but if back in the day, they were like the #1 company to work for. And the administration at UCLA told me, like, Larry, we're not supposed to tell you this, but, the biggest number of points at SGI right now for an interview, to guarantee an interview, is like 30. You could put 30 points and guarantee an interview there and still get to go interview with Hewlett Packard and Apple and all these other companies. I'm like, I don't want to work for any of those companies. I want to work for SGI. It's 100 points all on SGI. I was like, oh, okay. So they did that, right? And I go to the interview. I follow the next person in. They're like 15 minutes. They bring you through like cattle. And I walk in, and the interviewer looks up at me, and she says, "Are you the guy that put all 100 points on this interview?" Like somehow the word got to the recruiter that had come. And I said, yes. She says, well, I got some really good news. She said the hiring managers for 3 positions that came here from Silicon Graphics all want to hire you. So you get to pick which one you want. It was like completely like a dream come true. So she said, why don't you have a seat and I'll explain the different job openings. So one of them was finance. And I think if I had to pick that, you'd be interviewing a CEO right now or some other much richer guy in a much bigger house with many more pool tables. Or the other one was virtual reality evangelist. So even back in 1995, VR was really launching, and my background in graphics and real-time stuff was perfect for that. But the third one was API product management. And if you're technical in software, APIs or application programming interfaces, it's sort of the technical way that developers get access to, cool stuff to make apps or build cool things on a platform. So I kind of went the safe route and said, that's what I want to do, because I don't really know anything about product management, but I know a lot about APIs. So I kind of...
Which it looks like that's what you own at Procore. That's what you owned predominantly at VMware, BlackBerry.
It's set the course for my life.
World.
Yeah, it set the whole course for my career. I think because I really just love working with developers and, helping other creative developers build cool stuff, whether it's on a mobile platform like BlackBerry, or whether it's on a desktop platform like Sun when I was there, or even Silicon Graphics, building out all the graphics APIs to do cool stuff in that space.
So I'm curious, like, what do you think is different about being like in the product management world, where you're in this developer experience, developer tooling, developer world, versus selling like a product that goes to an end user? Because we deal with companies all the time that have different types of product managers and a variety of shapes and sizes, but like this API world is like a different breed of product management, right? So I'm curious of like your opinion on why that's different than these other product managers that might exist.
It's a great question, Shane. So I attribute this to, or the difference between like regular product management and platform product management, right? So platform product management is, I think, and there's actually a lot, I was Googling it beforehand because I wondered if this would come up. Platform product management is often considered to be one of the hardest, most challenging types of product management there is. And the reason is when you're managing a platform, you're managing a set of capabilities, a product, if you will, that is servicing not just one segment, but hundreds or thousands of segments, right? So you're building something that other people are going to build on top of, right? So it's, rather than building for a consumer, you're building for other builders, right? And it takes a lot of different thinking. You have to think really long-term view. You have to plan for that. You have to think about, how do I future-proof this? Because the last thing any developer wants right after they ship a product is to be told by the platform vendor that, the APIs are being deprecated. You got to rewrite your app. You got to re-architect your app or whatever. Like, they don't want to hear that, right? So what am I just shipped my product? It's going great. I have to fix it now because you decided to make changes or you couldn't figure it out right the first time, right? So it's hard to make API changes after they're set and published. So you have to, not that it's impossible, and there's been an awful lot of innovation in the last few years to make that easier, but it's always been an issue.
So the scope is just, it's a much larger timeline that you have to be thinking on, versus the consumer is going to use this tomorrow. What's it going to look like? It's the consumers are going to use this tomorrow. What's it going to look like? And they're going to use it in a week, in a month, in a year, in 2 years, and they're going to be asking for different things. And I have to think about that way in advance.
Yes. And you're not only considering the developers that are sort of one ring outside of what you're influencing, because those developers are going to build things based on the APIs you offer, right? And if you're a particular platform company and you want to have some control over the direction of where these applications or integrations, like at Procore, we do a lot of integrations and to our SaaS platform. Think of it like Apple as well, right? So Apple will create APIs that encourage certain development in certain areas, and maybe they don't make APIs in other areas because they're going to go capitalize on that, right? So you have to be thinking strategically about your company, where your company is going, what you want your platform to do, who do you want to encourage, where do you want to encourage growth, where might you want to stifle growth, right? So those are strange things for product managers, like standard product managers, to think about. They're often like, that's my customer uses this, they want to go there, I'm going to help them go there, build a great product, right? So it's sort of that to some exponent, in my opinion.
So tell us a little bit about Procore. What does it do today? Like, this is your chance to kind of advertise to the 7 to 10 million people who are watching. And so tell a little bit about Procore, maybe the story behind it. We're 60 million. Yeah, I don't know exact numbers.
Yeah, exactly. So what's cool about Procore is, unlike Procore, I have worked most companies in my career, like the last 10, 15 years, for really big name companies you'd recognize. I just came from VMware. I was there for 7 years, and VMware is a huge company. Maybe a lot of people don't recognize the name if you're not in the tech space, but they're a huge company.
Yep.
So going to a company like Procore is like, is interesting, and it might appear like, well, why'd you do that, Larry? You can work for these Sun, Silicon Graphics, VMware,
You're like infrastructure and complex computer science problems to construction.
Well, what's cool about it is, like, you saw the man cave back here. Like, I built everything. I also I'm very handy. I build, I'm working on skylights in my kitchen and bathroom right now to finish up. And, almost everything in my house I've been building. Me and tools, we're like this. I'm fearless when it comes to trying to figure out how to fix something or whatever, or build something. And I have always been this strange Silicon Valley, executive, technical person, because I've always driven big pickup trucks with racks so I can carry lumber or whatever it is I'm working on, right? I've helped my dad build a house when I was a teenager, which I think is where all that started. So it was weird. I was just one day thinking, I've been at VMware for 7 years, and maybe it's time to look for a change. And I'm looking through the job postings, and I see something that hits on marketplaces, something I did at VMware and elsewhere. It hits on developer platforms. It hits on it's obviously product management. Every single thing. There was even graphics and in this job description, because what this company does sort of spans all kinds of things. If you think construction, think of drawings and architecture and all that design. So I'm reading about this job description. I was like, well, who is this company? What do they do? I've never heard of them. So I looked them up. It's a SaaS company in the construction space. So I was like, construction, holy shit. That's like, it checked off 7 of the 8 things that define who I am. The 8th one being, I like to build shit. And I never even imagined I could work for a company that actually was in that space. So it was really like, I almost woke my wife up. I was in bed, at night looking through LinkedIn job postings when I came across this. And I applied immediately, got up out of bed, went to my desk, updated my resume, sent it in. And I woke up in the morning and I got an email back from the recruiter right after the email that says, we got your resume. Thank you. We'll call you in 5 to 7 weeks. There's an email right after that saying, hey, we want to talk to you. So and I just fought my way in there. I didn't let them say no. So back to what you said, Shane, about not saying no. Oh yeah, there was all kinds of like, well, we're not sure. Like, oh, let me send you a document. I'm going to write something. So I'd write stuff up. I researched the shit out of it, and they had no choice.
So let me ask you this, right? So, your team is obviously hiring, or maybe it's hiring, maybe it's not. But I know that Procore's, product management team is hiring in general. And a lot of the people that we're speaking with on a day-to-day basis, they're trying to find their next dream gig like you did with Procore, right? Like, what, in your opinion, does it take to become like a really competent product manager, right? And I would even like to focus on kind of your area or your domain of expertise on like this developer toolkit, developer experience, developer world, the developer market ecosystem, if you will. Like, what does it take to like interview well? Like, what do you look for when somebody's trying to make it on your team?
Gosh, there's a lot in that. I think the very first question you ask, what makes a great product manager? I think it's curiosity and empathy. I think are the important things. Do I think an MBA is necessary? No, I don't anymore. I used to think so. I've changed on that. Curiosity, empathy, willingness to always go back to data and not necessarily rely on any biases that you have. And in terms of interviewing well, understand the fundamentals of product management, for instance, and have a lot of good stories to tell. When I look to hire people, I want to understand, what situations were they put in, describe them to me. What problems did you have? How did you unravel them and get out of them? And I'm not looking for, and this might be the gem that some people may miss, is I don't look for the person to have solved all the problems. I look for someone who recognizes where they can't solve it and gets help. Right. And very few people on an interview will actually say, and I couldn't figure that one out, so I reached out to this person to help me. But when someone does do that, it's like, boom, I start reeling this problem. I start selling them, because that to me is someone who, is going to be successful, right?
Well, there's a lot of self-awareness when someone
yes,
can say,
it's
I
being
wasn't
humble.
perfect at this.
It's being humble. It's recognizing that we all have limits, that we have strengths and weaknesses, that there's a team that can help you move further. I mean, there's so much in a statement like that. And that's what I look for. And when I interview myself with companies that don't seem to care about that and want to just know, well, what did you solve? You know, and what did you do to fix the problem? You know, specifically. And it's like, you know, that just turns me off, and I'll end the interview, because I don't want to work for a company that doesn't recognize the importance in someone who may need to reach outside of their, you know, their own expertise, right?
And recognizes that if you have a team or a tool or something to leverage that can speed up the process and the delivery time, well, leverage what you can and recognize when it's efficient and when it's not, right? And it's like, how do you reduce redundancies if those things are possible? And maybe that's using somebody on the team or asking for help or support or something of that nature.
Yeah, or deciding out, no one knows, we got to go run some surveys. We got to go talk to customers or whatever, right? So, you know, everyone, or many times people will think, oh, it's all on me. I got to figure it out. I'm the product manager. I own this problem, you know, okay, here's what we'll do, right? You know, you can't, you know, shoot out of your ass. That's not going to be a good solution, right? The best thing to do is to sit back and say, does anyone know anything about this? None of us know shit about it. Let's go learn about it. Let's go do some discovery and figure out, you know, what's really going on. And then we'll take that data and then we'll assess and move from there.
So you mentioned
really good books on this too, by the way. There's some really great resources out there for folks that I've really
favorite books, top 3 or 4.
Oh gosh. Well, I just read the book Inspired by Marty Kagan. I really like that one. I read a book, oh God, what was it called? The Build Trap, Escaping the Build Trap, by Melissa Perry. Fantastic book. So if you're in the software space and looking for, you know, guidance on how to be a good product manager, that book is really good. I'm also right now reading John Dewar's book on Measure What Matters, sort of the book about OKRs and how they came about. So reading is something that I think is really valuable. If you know, I don't care how many years, like, you know, like I said, I've been doing product management since 1995, and I'm still reading books about it and getting better. So, because innovation is always happening, you can always learn something. So that's really important.
So you mentioned empathy is important to you. Can you define it? How do you define empathy? Shane and I have had discussions about this because it's become this buzzword of like, hey, I look for people with empathy. And I think it gets misconstrued a lot, you know, by a lot of people.
It accidentally starts bleeding into sympathy.
Oh, don't lead the witness, Shane. I want to hear Larry's definition.
Yeah, sympathy is not the right word. Empathy is more like, I can understand the pain that they're having if I put myself in that situation, right? So like, it's kind of like putting the customer's shoes on, trying to use your own product and going, oh, hell, this doesn't really work. You know, it's like, I really want to get to here and I got to go through these 5 steps to get to there. And none of those 5 steps have anything to do with getting there, right? Or whatever. So it's like then realizing, damn, why are we doing that to them, right? What's a better way to help them get what they need to get done? You know, whereas sympathy is kind of like, oh, you know, your life sucks. I really feel bad for you. You know, we'll send you some wine at Christmas time. You know, that's different.
Yeah. And I think some of the mistake of it too, because I think leaders need to be empathetic, but I see sympathy also the same way of like, there's a component of when people hear empathy, they go, oh, be sympathetic, meaning allow someone else's rough day or whatever to just, it's okay. Well, sometimes what you're going to find in your case of that product where you empathize and you go, hey, I see how the customers go through X, Y, and Z, and that sucks. And sometimes, like you said, you might go, but that's necessary, right? Like there's a component of, but we've done that on purpose. We know that it's going to be difficult for certain people. We're not going to change it just because it's difficult. Sometimes that was done on purpose. Sometimes that's a necessary step.
I would challenge that, right? If something's really difficult and painful, you know, I mean, sometimes you have to get certain pieces of information, right? To do certain things. And, but I guess, you know, can we find ways to do that so it's not painful? Right. I mean, one example that I come up to, I think about all the time, and I learned this many, many years ago, I think studying operations research in graduate school. Disneyland. You ever stand in line at Disneyland, right? And, you know, the line will say something like, you know, 45-minute wait, right? It's a 25-minute wait. They tell you it's 45 minutes because it's all the psychology, right? So you're like 45 minutes. Oh crap, all right, fine, and you get there in 25. Whoa, shit, the line's moving fast today. Holy crap, woohoo! I'm definitely going to go wait in line again, right? So it completely changes the psychology of the person to, by lying to them in a way.
But it's under promise, over deliver, right?
Managing expectations, right? So I think there's a lot of work that can be done there to get through difficult interfaces or experiences. If you step back as a product manager and think, I'm not trying to ask them ABC, I'm trying to enable something. What's the experience I'm trying to enable? What do I want them to do? Today, we ask them ABC, but maybe I can get there some other way. And, good product managers, the second thing is curiosity. They're going to be thinking about it and asking questions and, exploring with other people, that may have different experiences than them, right? And be curious to go look around and reading or whatever. There's just a lot of, there's a large component of both empathy and curiosity, I think, and makes good product managers.
So when you're interviewing at Procore, you're looking for empathy, you're looking for curiosity. Are there any things that are like very clear no-nos that you're like?
Yeah, someone that uses the word I a lot. Like, oh, I did this and I did that. And, I don't know. That's a bad thing for me.
Well, let's unravel that a little bit, right? Because I hear that all the time where it's just like, especially in the product management role, it's like the I instead of the we becomes a very big, challenge. And there's a place to use it and there's a place not to use it, right? So when should somebody say
That's
I
true.
did this versus we did that?
I think it's a balance. I think if in truth, there are certainly times when I want to know what this person actually did do. I think there's a way of saying things and phrasing things that comes from a position of being humble as opposed to a position of being, braggadocious or whatever. And I don't go for the person who's trying to convince me that they did everything. That's just unrealistic. And it's also not a personality many people like to work around, to be at the end of the day.
Yeah. So because as we interview, it's the same thing. We want both, right? We want them to be able to say there was a team that got this done, or I got to where I'm at because of support from my parents or a coach, or you even mentioned some of your journey was my girlfriend's dad kind of gave me these ideas, and it wasn't just Larry, certainly, but at the same time, what we heard was I got rejected. I went and took care of it. I took, the bull by the horns.
Yeah.
But along the way, there were also these people that got me there, which shows a little bit of both, right? Because especially product manager, part of the word that I know a lot of it's an owner, right? Product owner. So there's got to be some level of coming in and going, I had to take responsibility for it. At the same time, we as a team delivered, and I didn't know certain things. And so I reached out and this developer kind of gave me ideas, and this person in product gave me certain ideas, and my director told me this, and so being able to see kind of both components of I'll take responsibility, at the same time could never get anywhere without the team around me.
Yeah, I cringed when you said owner because I've never liked the word product owner. To me, a product owner is that's not what a product manager is. They're very different. Product owner is it's used a lot by people who I think are product manager / product owner. No, product owner,
like internal facing services that nobody will ever push to a customer.
Yeah, it could be. It's like a DevOps kind of position as well, right? Someone who's just responsible for making sure stuff's running infrastructure-wise behind the scenes. But a product manager to me is someone who needs to influence, right? And they don't have a lot of people working for them. They don't have engineers reporting to them, typically. Product management organizations are fairly small. Like there's one product manager, and then there might be a developer team of 7 to 10 people that are working together, and then often paired with a designer. So I'm a big fan of the tripod architecture, right? A product manager, product designer, and a product engineering lead and team. So, when those three work really well together, and help each other out, and challenge each other in an environment where there's no fear of, I don't know, there's a lack of fear of being vulnerable, right? You can let people know, like, I don't really know what to do here, or what do you think about this? I need your help on this product design idea, whatever. So when you have an environment like that, you get the best work. You really do get the best cooperation, the best performance. People are happier, and you get farther as a team.
So what would be your advice? Give your advice to someone who's maybe in your space, similar space of like, I'm an engineer, I want to get into product and I'm going to go get my MBA, or someone more junior, obviously, than you, who wants to achieve what you've achieved. Like, what would be some pieces of advice you would give to people, either early stage product in their career, or engineer who wants to move into product, or something like that? What would be your advice to launch their career?
Yeah, it's interesting. Even just this morning, I got a Slack message from a fellow engineer saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about transitioning to product management. I put some time in your calendar for Friday." I'm like, "Yes, my favorite topic." I love pulling people from engineering over to the dark side. I think the evidence, or the suggestions I would give, the advice I'd give is, talk to people in that space first of all, and explore what it is that's really driving a transition, right? I think first, let's make sure we're making the decision from a sound place. Like, I think I'm going to love that. I think that's where my passion lies. That's where I'm going to be most fulfilled. And because product management is not an easy role. It takes a certain type of personality, I think, sadly to say that, because, I've seen a lot of people with different personalities be in product management, but you have to have a thick skin. You got to be able to say no. You have to be able to hear all opinions. You have to be able to try to influence, things. And sometimes you don't always get the support you need, or you don't have as much power or influence to change engineers to do what you want them to do, right? So you have to kind of really deep, reach down deep and try to, get people to get their minds to shift. and that's just, whether you like doing that, is that then you probably have a propensity to be a good product manager.
It's like, you got to wear your sales hat, you got to wear your marketing hat, you got to wear your engineering hat, you got to wear all the hats.
You got to wear a lot of hats. That's true. And if you like that and you thrive in that world, then you belong here, right? If you really like order and structure, and you'd rather have someone else figure out the what's and the whys, and you can figure out the hows, which is kind of the difference between product management and engineering, I would say. And you want to just tell me what we got to build, because I can build anything and I'll just build it, right? If that's where you are and that really turns you on and keeps you happy, then please don't leave that, because we need people like that can innovate there.
And you need to be selling the why, right? You guys are the why men, the why ladies, the why
people. That's right. Right. Yeah. We're going to go here, and this is why. And I don't know how to get there. I need your help. I need you to innovate some way to get us there. Can you do it? Right. And your partnership is really, really important.
So I got another question, because this is just a pain point. I had a client a second ago come at and say, like, we submitted a product manager that was a senior product manager, and some of the feedback was like, hey, no, because the tenure is bad. Right. And I'm curious what you think, like, a good tenure is for a product manager in today's market. Like, if I had to preface this, right, this is somebody that was at they were at 3 companies in a row for 2-year stints. Prior to that, 1, and then prior to that, 6. So it was like 6 years, 1 year, 2 year, 2 year, 2 year. Is that in today's market? Is that's
complete? I would say that's complete bullshit rationale. Now, why are they there for 2 years or 1 year? What's the reason for their changes? Ask people that. Understand what that is. You might say, "Gosh, I'm looking at your resume, dude. You seem to move jobs a lot. Why is that?" And then if they unravel that and it makes a lot of sense to you, and you believe them, right, and you understand what they're looking for, then that's what's most important. But just to like blindly say that,
you look at the resume and you're like, bad tenure. They clearly have no depth. They can't be senior if they don't stay somewhere for longer than 2 years. To me, that was bonkers. I was like, I don't even understand what you're saying right now.
Yeah. I don't buy that. I mean, I do look at it. I notice it. I'm more concerned about things that are 6 months, 3 months.
Sure. Yeah. And then
and there's a problem usually, right? But 2 years. That's plenty of time. And then you can talk to someone they work with.
22-month average stint in today's market is not crazy. I mean, it's pretty normal right now, which is actually kind of bonkers.
Yeah. You mean 2 years, right? 2 year stint.
Yeah.
I would say that's pretty average. I mean, I would like for product managers to stay longer because it takes about a year to figure out, where all the knobs and switches are of the organization you're trying to influence. I've been at Procore now for just coming up on 1 year, and I think I'm finally starting to figure it out. I mean, I hope my Procorian friends see this and don't use it.
Yeah, they're laughing. They're like, "Oh, Larry's far."
Little does he know, he hasn't figured it out.
He
thinks
he started last week.
No, but it takes a while, right? It really does take a while because you're trying to influence people at all levels if you're trying to get something done, and that takes a while to map out, especially if you're at an organization that's also growing. Everyone is new there, so there's constantly, it's like going into a cockpit and like the levers are changing in front of your eyes. Oh, there's a new switch. What does that do? Flick it and see what happens. Oh, the lights go on, and then, there's a knob that just showed up next to it. Oh, dude, don't do that. Turns the engine off. Right. Yeah. You got to like get in there and play with it long enough to figure it out. That's my.
So let's get into some fun stuff. I like talking fun stuff. I like having a good time. I can talk about product for a while, but I far more prefer. All right, so you're in San Jose right now. So if we were right, San Jose.
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure I got the right spot. So if we were going to go to San Jose, we're going to take a vacation. The world's starting to kind of open up. We get to go to San Jose. What do we need to do when we're there?
Oh God. What's interesting is, I leave here when I want to go do stuff.
All right. So here, we'll flip the question. Where would you go?
I go when I want to have a good time. Yeah. So, when my wife was a little girl, her family took her camping up at Huntington Lake, which is up in the high Sierras, up above Fresno, 7,000 feet, equidistant from San Jose, as is Tahoe. Okay. So it's 200 miles that way to Huntington Lake or 200 miles that way to Tahoe. Huntington Lake, no traffic, beautiful, hardly anyone lives there, and it's just gorgeous. So we've been going there since our kids were in diapers. Now one's in college and one's married. And my wife and I bought a cabin there 2 years ago, or a little over a year ago. So when we get out of town, we go up to our cabin, and it's just there's nothing like being up in the mountains, right?
And you bring your tools and you build something new up in the cabin.
A lot of my tools are no longer here because the cabin is my next project.
That's your project.
So I kind of got the house up to, there's still a piece of molding here and there and some skylights I didn't finish, but the big stuff, the foundational kind of like, stuff I got to fix, that require the really big tools. That's all moving to the cabin.
So what's the coolest project you have done with your tools, project?
Oh gosh.
And all of your construction buddies now are going to be like judging you based on this.
Well, I designed and built an outdoor kitchen, which I love.
We just talked about making outdoor kitchens at lunch. Yeah. Shane, myself, and
I love to cook too, so I'm out there barbecuing all the time. Got a big pergola out there that I built out around it. I don't know. This room's pretty cool. Even the electric lights I built myself. So with pipe and wire. I like doing that.
That's awesome. It's not up to code, so hey, permit people, don't be watching this. But no, I'm sure it's up to code.
I'm sure it is. I use usually a higher gauge of wire than I've ever seen in any lamp I took it to.
So if you have a week free this summer, you can head to Nashville and do some outdoor kitchen work for Shane.
You know how many houses are backed up? I'm working on my son's house, my niece's house, and my nephew just inherited a house up in Ben Lomond, and apparently it needs some foundation work. So
have any of them hosted you on a podcast?
They have not.
That's the big question.
I mean,
they do feed me. They do feed me all the time. So
okay, well,
I have We have pretty good food right here. I got hot chicken waiting.
All right.
All right. So in terms of restaurants, what do you love? What kind of food, if you're going to go to a restaurant, what's your choice? Because we got hot chicken and barbecue here in Nashville. Chicago, I had deep dish pizza, hot dogs, and Italian beef.
When I travel to other places, I have my favorite restaurant in Barcelona that I go to in the old Gothic area. I don't know what kind of food it is. Everything there is fantastic. I don't know how to find it. When I'm, when I'm in Texas, because we have an office in Texas in Procore, I do Texas barbecue.
God. I was gonna say you don't do Italian food or something.
No, Chinese food. But I also many of my jobs that travel all over the globe, and there's nothing like food in local areas. Like in India, I've been there a dozen times. There's just fantastic places to eat there.
India is probably my favorite food that I've ever had. Like in a country,
yes, isn't it?
There's so nothing better than Indian food.
So diverse, yeah. So I love cooking too. So I just made it's not really an Indian dish, but it's kind of spicy. A chicken piri the other day. It's just phenomenal. A lot of New Mexico spice and cilantro and just,
Well, while you're making our outdoor kitchen, you can cook for us too. I'm okay with that.
What's in this for me?
I will supply the ingredients and we'll show you around Nashville.
All right. Okay.
All right. So last question you'll be judged on. What's your favorite movie?
Office Space.
Oh, good movie. I'm sure Shane hasn't seen it.
You haven't seen that?
Hey, Larry, he has barely. I was surprised he saw Godfather. I'm shocked. He has seen nothing good. Office Space is absolutely absolute classic for anyone who likes the show The Office. Office Space was like the original make fun of the cubicle environment. It was awesome.
It's the first one that popped into mind. I got lots of favorites. We just finished Ozark. If you've seen season 4.
No, I just watched episode 8 because they just dropped episode 8 through 14.
Yeah, the
finale.
Second half of the last season's out, and
I just watched episode 8, and so we're no spoilers here because this is outrageous. I think it is an amazing show. Second to me, I really think I would put it number 2 only to Breaking Bad.
I was going to say Breaking Bad is also the same in the same way. I watched Breaking Bad all through Europe in airports. So I had downloaded it on my Android tablet, season after season, and was traveling a lot with BlackBerry or VMware. And I've
only seen the first 2 seasons.
Listening, and like, oh crap, I'm gonna miss my flight.
My wife, we had twins, and she was on bed rest for 2 weeks, and we watched the whole thing during that period of time. And the range of emotions in that 2 weeks, from like, oh, this is a fun show, to I hate every person on this show, turn this off, this is terrible, to oh my gosh, turn it back on, I gotta watch it. It pretty amazing. Breaking Bad, and then Ozark would be next in line.
But we could talk TV and movies for hours. So.
All right. So
Yellowstone is awesome.
He's watching Yellowstone. We just started it. I'm not totally sold on it.
I haven't.
He doesn't like it. I love it.
I just don't like the people. And I hate them all right now. But all right. So Larry, this is your sales pitch. Why should someone come work for Procore? Who are you looking to hire? However, and then how can they connect with you?
Very few times in your career will you come across or experience a major shift in a technology, right? I mean, some of you guys, well, Shane's too young to remember, but the internet comes along, right? Then IoT or fintech or virtual reality or whatever. There's these big sort of waves of cool stuff, right? And they flow through the tech space rapidly. But there's these gigantic ancient kind of waves of business out there, like agriculture or construction, right? That just never seem to be used in the same sentence with technology, right? So imagine if you have some gigantic market like construction worldwide is like in the trillions, right? They're suddenly going, putting everything on paper and pencil and having stuff mailed around and rolled up in these big, architectural diagrams. And, we got to modernize, right? So to me, it's like Procore is the 800-pound gorilla in the space, leading the innovation charge to modernize and digitize construction. And it's fun. It's fun being at the beginning of this, because in tech, we have a lot of knowledge about all this cool tech and what it can do. And we're coming to the construction space where they're just starting to figure it out. And it's a blast. I love it.
And so what are you looking for? Well, who, like roles, positions, etc.?
So we have lots of roles open. I don't have any on my team right now. I want to hire 2 people. I'm fighting to get 2 more recs, but I don't have them yet. But we have some really, really great roles. And I didn't come prepared with them, but we have them. Please check.
How did the people find them?
They're almost always posted on LinkedIn. I think we have a LinkedIn page for Procore. But if it's something like, it may even be procore.com/jobs, I think, or procore.com/career.
Well, you guys got like a director of data products. You guys got a senior technical product manager. You got somebody owning your.
We have a huge data and AI team, which you can think, well, what do you do with data and AI? Why is that in construction? Oh my God, there's so much data out there. People moving stuff around. The biggest problem in construction today, is, our CEO Tui Quarterman says this all the time. Is getting the right people with the right tools and the right equipment at the right time at the right place, all together, synchronized. Right? I didn't say that as well as he does, but that's why he's the CEO. But look, it's about organizing all that stuff, and there's so much waste when all your roofers show up but the equipment's not here, right? Or I don't know, certain materials didn't show up or tools didn't show up on time because of some, they're on a boat somewhere, right? And we got, there's just lots and lots of waste in building these things. And you can imagine building big, hospitals or stadiums or whatever it is. There's hundreds of thousands of things to coordinate. Yeah.
And I wasn't even talking as simple as like drafting. Like I was talking to a friend that's an architect, and he's just like, just drafting a room. Sometimes people just don't recognize how much work goes into drafting a room because you have to do the same thing over and over again, and just removing some of those redundancies and automating some of the tasks that could and should be automated, even from a safety perspective, as well as from a manual labor perspective. There's so much that needs to happen.
There's a ton. That's why and you can imagine in all that and everything that's going on, there's all kinds of AI that can be, and data that can be captured, how long it takes to do stuff, who needs to do it, where, what can we learn from that? What insights can we extract? There is just a ton of great innovation that's just waiting to be had in this space. You can go incrementally, innovate and, VR head goggles or something like that, but there's no way I would do that over this. This is like greenfield.
Yeah, that's awesome. Procore's awesome. Shane and I actually do have a slight construction background personally, so I'm a big fan of the construction industry merging with the technology field. So I think it's awesome what you're doing at Procore. I hope you guys get flooded with a bunch of resumes and stuff like that. If not, we're happy to help. So this has been a ton of fun. Larry, I enjoyed every minute of this. I really enjoyed your background. You have a way better virtual background. Larry didn't actually build that. That's a virtual background. No, I'm kidding. So I think, coming from a fun man cave, Larry McDonough, Director of Product at Procore, how can they reach you? Is there a good way? Just go search you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Go find Larry on LinkedIn, connect with him. If you know someone you think would be good, send them over or just get connected and go find Procore on LinkedIn as well. Thank you so much, Larry, for joining us today. Hopefully everyone gets a bunch of cool new ideas as they're starting to enter their product journey. So thank you again, Larry. Thank you, Shane.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Everyone else, goodbye.
Next in.